Welcome to this evening's Zoom event from the National Jewish Assembly. For those that don't know me, haven't seen me before, my name's Keith Rowe. I'm one of the two vice chairmen of the National Jewish Assembly. A quick word before we get into this evening's meeting. If you haven't yet joined, we always have a number of guests who join us who aren't members. Would you please consider joining? You'll be able to see more of our communications, join more of our meetings, including in-person meetings, and get extra communication. There's just one very small charge for a lifetime membership, so I think it's about £18 or something. Please go, yep, £18. Please, if you're not a member, please do consider going onto our website, nja.org.uk, and joining this organization. That would be a great help to us, and you will get more information. Now, this evening's meeting, I think, is going to be a particularly fascinating one. It's entitled From Darkness to Recovery, the Impact of 2 Years in Hamas Tunnels and the Challenging Journey Ahead. We've all given thought, I'm sure, to how people who have escaped these tunnels or been released from these tunnels must actually be feeling and how their families are. We're going to learn a lot more about that this evening from experts who are involved in this process. The two guests who will be speaking to us this evening are from an organization called BOU, Come Together, and it's formed from the initials of the Hebrew phrase, coming and saving them and us. It's a volunteer-led Israeli non-profit initiative by medical and mental health professionals, and it was launched in November 2024. It emerged in response to the urgent need for public awareness and action regarding the rescue of hostages held by Hamas. The initiative focuses on the physical and psychological trauma endured by the hostages, their recovery and the impact on their families, Israeli society, Jewish communities, and Israel supporters worldwide. It began with a series of professional lectures to medical teams, and it's spread far wider than that to the general public across Israel and now worldwide. Today, the organization includes over 1,200 professional volunteers, and it's reached thousands of people in Israel and around the world, inspiring greater public engagement and activism. BOU also provides support to children in schools, students, and educational staff, as well as local communities in this whole healing process. It's going to take everybody a long time to heal, however it's been affected. Now that the living hostages have been returned, the mission continues. We're still waiting for a number of bodies to be returned. They're being drip-fed out by Hamas, and there are so many religious aspects, honoring the deceased, upholding our traditions, bringing closure to the families, and we're going to hear a lot more about that this evening. Before I introduce our first guest, I'll just let you know that once we've finished hearing from both of our two speakers this evening, there will be an opportunity to ask any questions. So if you'd like to ask a question, two things. First, please do ask a question and keep it brief so that everybody who wants to can have a turn. So please don't make a speech. Let's just have a question, and then we can give our guests a chance to actually answer them as fully as possible. And if you'd like to ask a question, the way to do it is just by raising your virtual hand. Depending on the type of computer or phone you're using, the button may be in different places, but on my screen, there's a raise hand button at the foot of the screen. All you have to do is click that. There'll be a yellow hand come up on the screen. I will see it and I'll call you in turn to ask any questions. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce our first guest, which is Dr. Amir Blumenfeld, who's one of the co-founders of BOU. He's also an IDF Lieutenant Colonel, reserved, former head of the Trauma Branch in the Medical Corps, Hostages and Missing Families Forum medical team. So he knows what he's talking about on this, and we're going to find this absolutely fascinating. So Amir, over to you.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. And special thanks for Talia, Stephen, Keith, who organized this event. As Jess said, the living hostages are back. but the problems are not. And this is what we try to talk about tonight and to carry on. As said, my name is Amir Blumenfeld. When I was little, I was a pediatric surgeon. And then I served, since I did my academic training before military service, I joined the military. And my last position was the chief of trauma, where I needed to practically write down two reports. One of them was about Gilad Shalit, a hostage in Hamas, who was kept alive for 5 years. And the other two were Goldwasser and Regev, who practically started the Second Lebanon War. This was the first time we actually examined patients via video and forensic medicine evidence. And apparently, we were correct in the first place, and very, very fortunate. We said that Gilad is alive, and he did come back alive. This is a picture from his wedding, and I just recently heard that he has a daughter. Okay. Unfortunately, we were corrected the second case where we stated that these two soldiers are deceased, and indeed their bodies came back after 2 years. When October 7 broke, I felt that my place was with the hostages and their family, with the hostages' families, and I joined the forum. And let me tell you a little bit about what happened since. Well, let's go back a little bit to October 7. It was Shabbat, a holiday, and on 6:29 a.m., extensive missile attack started. It was about 4,500 missiles launched at the center and south of Israel, and underneath, 6,000 terrorists invaded the border and tried and started to occupy settlements as well as military bases. Surprisingly for them, as I was told and actually convinced, by one of the kibbutzim, Kibbutz Re'im, they found a music festival named Nova, where more than 4,000 people were celebrating and actually started the celebration the night before. When they arrived there, they started killing, harassing, abusing, raping, and kidnapping the people who celebrated over there. Very few managed to escape. At the end of this day, we knew, after watching the TV and not believing what we see, that we have multiple deaths, we have casualties, we have missing, and we have kidnapped, since the Hamas already started releasing the videos via Telegram and other social media means. It was a big chaos, and chaos is part of any mass casualty event. However, this chaos lasted for 3 weeks, and by the end of these 3 weeks, we finally understood that there were 250 people taken hostages to Gaza. In between, there were about 160 males, 92 females, 37 kids from the ages of 10 months to the age of 18 years, and 30 seniors beyond the age of 65. This was the first time that such an event happened in modern history, where such a diverse group of people, by ages, genders, obviously, medical conditions, were taken hostage. October 2025, 2 years. All living hostages were released, most of them by agreements. Only 8 were released and returned in military operations, and as said, 160 came back by agreement. In addition, there were returning of deceased as well. 72 deceased hostages came back again by these military operations and agreements. And as for now, as for today, there are still 15 deceased hostages in captivity. And I just heard that 2 are going to be released tonight. So it will put the number on 13 by the end of this night. I hope so. Well, 168 hostages came back alive, and the joy is amazing, as you can imagine. Everyone celebrated, everyone was happy. Let me just remind you that the last 20 came back last week on October 13, after a huge, huge fight over their resuscitation and bringing them back home. It took us 2 years to bring each and every one home, and we're very happy about it. And obviously, you can see, and you probably saw all those pictures of joy, of mothers kissing their sons and hugging their girlfriends, hugging their boyfriends, husbands, and wives. Big, big, big joy. Concerning their medical condition, on January 2024, I was asked to estimate what are going to be the medical consequences of a long stay in tunnels. And this was my estimation published on January 2024. A year and 18 months afterwards, the Ministry of Health published his findings. And I wouldn't like you to read each and everything over here just to see how many details we had. But as I asked my friend GPT to analyze what are the similarities, I got in response that in most of the fields examined, a high level of consistency was found between the initial assessment and the actual finding by the Ministry of Health. Those findings confirmed that the prediction. A wide range of injuries was identified, including physical, nutritional, physical injuries, psychological effects, nutritional deficiencies. This was problem number one. Sexual abuse, psychological abuse, and lack of medical care for both chronic and acute illnesses. These people came back. They need rehabilitation, and rehab already started from the day they just landed here in Israel. But it will take a long time, and we know it will take a long time because even the hostages who came back after 50 days on November 2023 are still at this path of rehab. We expect that those who came back after 700 and nearly 40 days will probably have a longer path, but the journey started, and this is what's important. And just to show you that this rehab can work, I would like to tell you about this beautiful lady named Elma Abraham. She was 84 when she was taken captive, and she suffered from hypothyroidism. She needed to take 1 pill a day, and indeed she took with her to prison several pills, but it was over soon. When she came back to the border, and I'm stopping here, I'm sorry, I'm stopping here. When she came back to the border after 50 days, she had a pulse of 40, and temperature of 28 Celsius degrees. If you calculate the chances of survival, bringing the age 84, pulse 40, and 28 Celsius degrees, you probably get something which is very close to zero. But after 5 months in ICU at Soroka Hospital in the south, you can see her, dancing with her physiotherapy and smiling. Usually she smiles at this video. Let's see if it happens today as well. She smiled. Okay, good. How did that happen? Let me ask this wonderful woman, Rachel Goldberg-Polin, to explain how this miracle happened.
When we were out on the streets, each of us with our little homemade signs saying, bring them home, or President Trump help us, or all the clever signs that we've seen over the last 2 years, and people would say, you really think that's going to make a difference? You really think wearing the tape's going to make a difference? You really think that, sitting out there at this summit, at this juncture is going to make a difference? And the resounding answer is it absolutely makes a difference. You know why I know? Because President Trump told us. That's how we know. He told us, you little people, you know what you all are? And I said, we're a bunch of nobodies. But you know what happens when a bunch of nobodies get together? We are the people. And the people's voice was heard by the highest most powerful decision maker on the planet. And so kol hakavod, like all the honor goes to the people.
Okay,
When
so
we
it was
were
the people. It was the people, and when hostages came back, you can see what they said. Yair Hon, who was released on January this year or February, said your support was my lifeline. Rivka Buchbut, the wife of Elkanah, said, "Thank you, people of Israel. You saved Elkanah's life and also mine and Rehem's, their little son." Avi Ochana, the father of Yosef Chaim Ochana, said, to the dear people of Israel who never grew tired and never gave up at the solidarity and mutual responsibility. And last one is one of our good friends, Lishai Miran, who said, "I'm proud that this is my people, a nation that never gave up on its brothers and sisters." So it happened. At this point, I would like to talk about the deceased one, and I can tell you that more than 44 hostages were taken alive and died in captivity. The New York Times published an article on June 15, 2024, when he said that 7 were executed by Hamas, 4 were killed in airstrikes and mistakenly by the IDF, and killed, crossed in 4, and 1 was killed in crossfire, and there were 26. We know about 44 of these deaths that happened there, and we would like to define them as a preventable death. They're deaths. A death that could have been avoided with timely and appropriate intervention, resources, or action. This didn't happen, and we're so sorry. And as you can see, this is a funeral. And if you can see the orange balloons, this is the funeral of Shiri Bibas and her 2 sons, Kfir and Ariel. We still have 15 as of today, 14 Israelis and 1 Thai that need to come home. But the situation goes, from bad to worse from day to day. And we need to bring them as soon as possible home because there's chaos in Gaza, there's lack of intelligence, there are environmental hazards and command breakdown, as you all know. That is total loss of traceability for some of them, and families may never be able to bury their loved ones. In psychology, this is called ambiguous loss, where families do not have any certainty, no closure, and no ability to bury and say goodbye to mourn on the kin ones. So this effort need to end by bringing all these 15 fallen hostages back home, bury them respectfully as they should. Well, what happens to the Israeli society during these 2 years from the physical and mental aspects? There were physical impacts and by means of significant increase in chronic illnesses, especially heart and diabetes, heart disease and diabetes, deterioration among existing patients. 43% of chronic patients reported of worsening their condition. There was sharp rise in cardiac incidents and decreased physical activity, weight gain, and sleep disturbances in so many people. The substantial rise in psychiatric medication use, as well as addictive substances. This means that the Israeli society currently is sick. Whether the relatives of the hostages or not, we're all sick currently. We all went through a major trauma. From the mental health impacts, we can see anxiety, depression, exhaustion, concentration difficulties, and emotional burnout suffered by many, many people because of these 2 years. Many people suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder and the secondary traumatization of especially those who gave hand, military people, and even psychologists. There's mental health distress among children and adolescents expressed through aggression, school dropouts, and sleep and nutritional issues. Suicide rates increased, especially among reserve soldiers coming back suffering from emotional trauma and moral injuries. And there's a dramatic request in rise from psychological help. Currently, we estimate that every therapist is supposed to treat 750 people that need him. Obviously, that cannot happen but this is the situation currently, and we expect this situation to even become worse. Let me go through the short of time. What's going to happen in the future? There are going to be some future implications and intergenerational as well. There are going to be like long-term implications in chronic sleep disorder, in psychotherapy epidemic, in psychopathology epidemic, I'm sorry, and reduced life expectancy, as was shown in other research. And this trauma may even transform to the younger generation, intergenerational trauma, and by just emotional stress, as well as epigenetic changes that may affect kids that are not still born. In addition to all of these health issues, Israel currently is at the breaking point, and there is painful division that is tearing us apart. The rifts are cut deep, and unity feels very, very fragile. The reality is complex. There is not, it is not a story of black and white. However, there is right and wrong, what we need to do and what we should not do. We cannot ignore the conflicts within us, and we need to solve those. But we have hope. Our history teaches us we have overcome so many fractures before, and we can heal again, and this is what we expect to do. Let me show you once again this admired lady named Rachel Goldberg-Polin, who spoke and told us what should we do.
You are obligated to find what binds you with each other, what binds you with your fellow Jews, what binds you with your fellow human beings. And lastly, something that I have learned during this bulky, circuitous, and celestial challenge that my family has been handed. We people, we are not what we say. We are not what we think. And we are not even what we believe. In this life, we are what we do. So go do, you shining lights of wonder. Go be our North Stars. Go be our beacons. Go be our hope. There is a whole world out there awaiting your arrival. So go, you beautiful people. Go and do.
Nobody could say it better than her. She is an amazing woman. And I thank you so much for participating in this conference tonight. And I can tell you it was a privilege to save lives, but healing is our next challenge, and we're going to face it with bravery. And just like Rachel Goldberg said, we are going to succeed. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Amir. That was extremely interesting and quite worrying as well, but thank you for the first part of this evening's presentation. Before I introduce our second speaker for this evening, as I mentioned earlier, this organization, BOU, is a volunteer organization. One of the things that it needs and that you all can help with is they're looking for additional funds constantly. There will be a link on our website, on the chat this evening, and in the emails that will come out to you following the meeting this evening. There will be a link with a way in which you can donate and help this organization. I'll repeat that again at the end, just in case anybody missed, so that you've got two chances to remember to go on and click the link, please, and give generously. I think we can all see how worthwhile and what an important organization this is to donate to. And now we'll move on to our second speaker this evening, which is Professor Merav Roth, who is a psychoanalyst, associate professor at the University of Haifa, and is one of the founders, or is the founder and director of First Line Med, a long-term free healthcare initiative supporting the victims, returned hostages, and their families. including children, siblings, parents, and grandparents affected by the events of October the 7th. She is obviously a key team member of BOTU, and again, we look forward to hearing what you have to say. As I mentioned just before you start, if anybody would like to ask questions to either or both of our guests this evening, please make a note or remember what this question is, raise your virtual hand, and I'll be able to call you and you can ask anything you like of our speakers. Merav, over to you.
Thank you very much, and hello everybody. So I will begin with Rachel's last words with what we did and why am I here? And I will say that at the first week of this terrible war, I was split into two parts. I went down to the Dead Sea and I was co-establishing the therapeutic aid for Kibbutz Be'eri, one of the kibbutzim that was affected very harshly by the massacre. And I stayed with them for a few weeks to establish the therapeutic aid for them, and I still work with them until now. And at the same time, 3 colleagues from 3 different psychoanalytic institutes, we established FLM, First Line Med, knowing or understanding that this is not going to be a kind of trauma that short-term intervention would be enough for. So we established an organization, first volunteering and then through donations. This is also a link that you have, that we can help, and we give 3 years of therapy to each patient free of charge, from the survivors of the massacre, bereaved families, and families of the hostages and released hostages. And I also work with released hostages, both from the first agreement and from the second agreement, and I'm advocating the hospitals in accepting the current hostages. So this is the background for what I'm going to tell you. And I will begin by saying that this is a very strong moment for us. It's really a new situation that we are in, when all the surviving hostages are home, and it is an immense relief. It is, with the return, we really felt a great weight lift from our hearts. But when the psyche is overwhelmed, is upheaval, even if it's from an extremely good reason, positive one, it stirs up all the other feelings that until now were being, held. And a friend of ours said that, from Bo, she said, I feel as if for 2 years I was digging in the ground trying to reach the hostages. And now we are all, raising our hands, looking up and seeing all the devastating situation that we are in. It's called in psychology delayed mourning. We did not begin to mourn until now. And also now we are waiting for the bodies of the deceased hostages to return. But we do feel that the torture of identifying with our brothers and sisters in tunnels, and knowing that they are chained, that they are in cages, that they endure violence. And this is something that really held our psyche in a kind of fatal combination of dissociation on the one hand, because you cannot really face such a situation and be all in. And this is one of the definitions of trauma, that you cannot bear the thing that you're experiencing. So of course it is true about the hostages, and I will talk about them in a minute, but it's also true about the Israeli society as a community. So on the one hand, we were all dissociated and depressed and numb and in agony and extremely anxious And we can see that there was a really alarming report by the medical researchers and state reports last week. And the data is alarming. 1 of 4 Israelis is using substance abuse. 68% of the Israeli society in general suffer from depression or anxiety. 45% of the society in general suffer from a potential PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, sleeping disorders from wall to wall. The symptomatology was never even near what we see now. So now that they come out, we were dissociated. We held our breath for 2 years, and we raise our heads and we confront the other part that was denied or blocked, but it was underneath all the time in great distress and in deep mourning for a huge loss in so many arenas. 1,200 people died on October 7, 2 years ago. 251 hostages were taken to captivity. Thousands of wounded in this terrible war. A devastating humanitarian crisis in Gaza. This is a deadly neighborhood, and we all suffuse it from day to day. So I'm saying this about this moment. It is a wonderful moment of receiving the hostages back, and also quite a heavy moment to begin to mourn everything that we have to mourn and to recover and to begin the long path of recovery. And now I can say that I think we are inspired by the returning hostages. And I think this is a bit odd, but it's true. So I will tell you now a little bit about their psychological injuries, but also about their psychological strength and spiritual strength that gives me hope about everybody, that we can cope with the most extreme challenges in life. So first, to say a little bit about what I see and what we see working with hostages that came out after 50 days, then after a year and a half, learning from them about those who came right now, who have a slightly different challenge, but not very different from a year and a half in captivity. So first of all, they suffer from a much more, whatever I said about the Israelis is of course relevant regarding the hostages. So they suffer from an immense dissociation. In order to survive captivity, you have to be dissociated. Dissociation means a kind of an electric shutdown in the psyche, disconnecting emotion from memory, from body, from sensing the environment. So you're disoriented, you're in a kind of a derealization, not exactly knowing who you are, where you are, what is going on, but at the same time being there. So, for instance, the hostages tried to sleep as many hours they could because, first of all, they were starving and they were afraid of tortures and they were afraid of violence and they were afraid to die. So the best thing is to sleep. And when you don't sleep, you try to sleep psychologically. But at the same time, they were held by their ethical values, by seeing the other, by love, which is extraordinary. It's really remarkable to hear them saying that on the one hand, like Keith Siegel says, I was lying down for 6 months, but then one day someone opened the window a little bit and I saw a sky. And I said to myself, sky, something to bless. And then one moment there was a bird in the sky and I said to myself, wow, what a wonderful day. I saw a bird right now. And the ability to see beauty in God's world in the most extreme circumstances, when this man could not be on his feet for 6 months, this is extraordinary and this is inspiring. And it's all at the same time. So it's not that they lost completely who they were, but at the same time, they had a terrible identity loss and identity crisis because they were disconnected from everything. They lost, many of them lost family members on the day October 7. Two of them lost their children and their wives. And they didn't know what's going on outside, out there. So the confusion is immense. So they come out with an identity crisis, with a belonging crisis. They don't have a home to go back to, most of them, because the country is not safe. That part of the country is not safe yet. They feel extreme loss of confidence and loss of trust. The world is not trustworthy, which is very, very deep. This is something that they will take a long path into life and in a way forever. Some loss of trust will be there forever for all of us. We know something about life that we only heard before and now we know it. So the injuries are very deep, but as I said, when you hear them, when people ask me how are they, because they want to hear from someone who meets the released hostages, I say they are people. They are people who endured great suffering, and they came out from inferno. But they are people who came out from inferno, and they are also, my experience as a second generation to a Holocaust survivor helps me to know that you can come out from an inferno and build a life, a meaningful life, a beautiful family, and to contribute to society, etc. So it's holding, extreme discrepancies between very heavy injuries and the knowledge that they kept their strength and their spiritual and values as guidance on the one hand, and that they can now be on the one hand broken, on the other hand telling us and inspiring us with what one can do confronting terrible losses and terrible circumstances. I will tell you what I told them when I met them, the guys who came out a year and a half from captivity. When I first met them, I told them, you don't let anyone tell you that you're a hostage forever. And you're not even a returnee forever. You are Tal, you are Yaden. I'm saying just names, it's not the names that I met, but I'm giving you names of guys who came. You are Keith, you have names, and you had a history beforehand. And then I asked them, tell me about beforehand. Who were you? And they began telling me, and their eyes were lit because they kept it dissociated. And when they came out, everyone asked them, how was it in captivity, or how are you now? And then they remember, okay, we have a time circle that was there before we went into captivity. And this is what we do in therapy. And I told them, you continue to write your life story, and we continue to write your life story together. That's what we do together. And right now we wrote 3 lines in your life story. So this is the challenge. And I think there is a parallel challenge to the hostages, to the released hostages, and to the Israeli society. And also, I think, to the world and to our relations with the world. I'm speaking to you in England, and I want to say we also need to write our story together again. And we again, the emotions are very ambivalent, and the complexity is huge, because I know people around the world sing from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, and they don't remember that the first line is all the Jews will be killed from the river to the sea. So, and I don't want to be killed, right? And I don't think you want me to be killed. So the song is a longer song, But at the same time, I cannot say just anti-Semitism, because I'm also protesting every weekend against the policy of my government. But I want to tell you, the world, why turning your back on me? I'm a liberal Democrat. I need your hand. So the complexity is huge. And the same inside our society. I have terrible discrepancies from people in my society, but I want to talk to them and I want to recover. And Tal Shoham, who came out from captivity after 18 months, said, you know, we were there and we were every night asking ourselves, suffocating, no air, no food. We were asking ourselves, they were four together, did anyone insult anyone today? Are we all okay? Do we have anything we want to share? And he said, if we could do it in Hamas tunnels, we can do it as a society. We can do better. So it's a little bit like Rachel said. We have a North Star. We can go after our values, our ideas. We know where to go. And in psychology, we know that sometimes we collapse, but then we need to raise ourselves. And I will say, end my words by quoting, as I always do, Rabbi Heschel, who went with Martin Luther King towards Montgomery in the big march to Montgomery. And then he went back to his hotel in the evening and he wrote, today I prayed with my feet. So it's like do that Rachel tells us. So they prayed with their feet, we pray with our feet, and we need to pray a lot with our feet because there is a lot to change and to recover, and to in Gaza for these innocent poor people and the devastating humanitarian crisis. The Israeli society is extremely injured, and I think the world in general lost its track quite severely, but we are here together because we believe that we can pray with our feet, and this is the cause for this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Merav. That was extremely interesting. I'm sure that there's going to be loads of questions, not that I can see very many. Hands are starting to go up, but before I call on any of them, I've got one myself. So my privilege as chairing this evening is that I get to ask the first question, which is that you both mentioned that support of the families and the Israeli public at home did a huge amount to keep them sustained in captivity, and that this is part of what kept them going. I just wondered how much they actually knew, how they actually found out about what was going on. Obviously, they didn't see the media. And one of the initiatives that I thought was most fascinating while it was all going on was these huge speakers that the Israeli army erected at the side of Gaza and blasted out news and saying, we're with you. Did the hostages actually get to hear what was coming out of those speakers, or were they buried so deep they just didn't get a chance and it was wasted?
So actually, and surprisingly enough, they did watch media. Okay, the terrorists showed them. It was a big surprise for me, but there's a channel, which is channel 15 in Israel. It's named I-24. And usually Israelis do not watch it. And the terrorists showed them so many times the I-24. The first time I heard about it, I said, this is the place to be interviewed in. And I went there every time they asked me to go. So they did. They heard radio. And sometimes the terrorists even brought them all kinds of news and even pictures of the families. One of them just came back and asked, who is this person who is holding my picture in every Saturday night in this, hostages square in Tel Aviv? And apparently it was his relative that he didn't know, okay? And the other one, Alon Uhel, came back and said, I first saw so many people holding my picture and these people didn't know me. How did that happen? So it was actually, they did know. Obviously, it was kind of a psychological abuse by the terrorists, you know, so many times. But yes, they did know, or some of them knew what was going on here, and they used it as a psychological weapon in many, many instances.
I will add shortly that what happened was that after the first release, we knew already that some of them do see, not everybody, but some of them did see. And that gave a huge initiative to others to go out on the streets, because now we knew that they see us. And what I meant by a slight difference between the last time hostages were released and now is that the hostages that were released after a year and a half with an extreme learned helplessness of a year and a half, they came out and they had immediately a very important mission. And that took them from being the most helpless people to very important people going around the world. And it helped them regaining their sense of competence, their sense of valuable aim, that they can look up to and wake up to. And the current hostages don't have it as strongly because there will not be people in Gaza, hostages in Gaza, that will see them. So this is a little bit different.
Yeah. Thank you. Right, I'm going to open it up to the floor now. And the first question that I have is from Miriam C. So if you'd like to unmute and please ask your question.
Good evening. My question is to both of you, the specialists. When I was in Israel not so long ago, I met a young man who, in my opinion, is severely traumatized. He had flashbacks, sleeplessness, heavy substance use, and he was kind of stuck in the 7th of October. And I noticed that like almost every day he talked about it to me. And then I noticed that also all the new people he met, he always counted the details of the events. And then after some times I wondered if it was actually a good thing to keep him in a way there and not stop it, or what would you suggest? How is us as lay people, how can we help these people best?
Yes. So it's a very interesting thing, the phenomena of time related to trauma. In trauma, we have, usually people have past, present, future. But traumatized people have 4 circles: past, trauma time, present, and future. And usually they collapse into the time of trauma. And they're stuck there. Freud saw that 1917, 1920, when he worked with soldiers who came back in World War I. And he said, this is repetition compulsion. They are compelled to repeat. And he said, the reason is that this is the point where the world collapsed. So there is an unconscious wish to go back there and repair, but it's impossible to repair the past, so you're stuck. And that's why you're right, that it's not very helpful for someone to repeat and repeat and repeat. Once we thought it would be an abreaction, it would be catharsis. No, it's not just being in the centrifuge of the same traumatic event where you lost control. So what we do in therapy, and I think you can do even lay people who meet someone like that, is similar to what I told you that I told these guys. Who were you before? I work with traumatic loss for many years, and I always say, with trauma, you need to give the keys to the person in the hand, so you can tell him, no, it seems so hard to leave October 7 because you lost something so valuable there, but there you don't have any control, and here now you can control quite a few things, and just help people to gently to try and begin to have the time track more flexible. But it's a long journey in therapy as well. But this is the phenomenon that you're describing.
Thank you. Alison Davis, you'd like to unmute? Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much for those excellent presentations. My question is also around timing. Can therapy ever be offered too soon? I'm aware that certainly in the UK, we didn't offer standard bereavement counselling to start until a few weeks after a bereavement, because there was a lot of stuff for people to process. And how do you assess when each individual is ready to start their 3 years of therapy? I'm thinking particularly, currently, I think JD Vance said today, there's no ultimatum defining a deadline for handing over the hostages' bodies. So for those families of the 15, I think it's 15 remaining, there's currently no deadline. So where do they begin their journey? And I'm thinking of some of the returned hostages where we've read stories that they're barely communicating even with their family yet. They're just sort of gazing out at maybe at the sky or something.
Mm-hmm. So Amir, shall I take it?
Yes, it's about timing and
Yes.
when you go in with certain elements of therapy.
Yes. What you do at the beginning is grounding and the opposite of opening. You don't let someone now open everything because he will be flooded, because he cannot, because it takes so much time. But you do need to begin and to say to someone, now you're in a safe place, and to reach out and to see how, quite the contrary, how do you compose the psyche in a very delicate and respectful way that is taking into consideration exactly what you say. They cannot yet open everything. They are frozen, they are dissociated. It will take a long time, but you do need to confront them with a life drive, with hope, with a smiling face, with a human open heart. And this is healthy. This calls all the workers of the life drive inside of them to wake up and say, wow, okay, I'm in a safe place. Someone is smiling. Someone sees me. And you counteract the huge amount of death instinct that they suffused and murderousness and violence. You need to counterpart it, to counteract it. So this is about therapy at the beginning. It's very, very tiny pieces and towards the light. And after, it will take a long time until you really metabolize what they went through and mourn everything they lost. And that's why FLM is beginning at 3 years, because we know that it takes a long time. And about the families of the dead hostages, this is really crucial. You cannot mourn by rumor. For them, they need their people, their family member near them, in motherland, near them. They need to weep on their grave, that the drops will be on their grave. And I was in a funeral of Ilan Weiss. I accompanied the family, because not just patients, because they're from Be'eri. The girls from the beginning, their mother and sister were kidnapped, and their father was murdered and kidnapped. And they waited for their father for 2 years. And now when he was released and buried, his daughter, Maayan, cried, and she said, Daddy, I'm so sorry. It's so terrible, but I was praying to bury you. It's so terrible by God to pray that you will have the right to bury your father. So this is really crucial for the closure and in order to begin to mourn. And that's why we are making sure that this part of the agreement will be respected.
Caroline Green, please. Caroline, you can come off mute.
Can you
There
hear
you go.
me? Hi, good evening, everyone. And thank you so much to all of you. What an amazing, informative, and very emotional talk. So thank you so much. So just two questions, if I may. The first one is, I wondered if anyone can tell us a bit more about Yadin Bibas, because he lost his children and his wife. I'm not comparing him, obviously, to any other hostage, but it was such a big thing in this country. And I obviously I've got don't know him, but he had such an effect on me and a lot of people I know. So that was one question, how he's doing. And the other one is, how else can we help your organisation as well as donating? Is there anything we can do from the UK that we can help?
So let me say something about Yarden, if it's okay with you, Merav. We obviously are not going into details regarding each and every one, but I can tell you in general that as so many returned hostages said, it's a long path, it's a long way, it's a long journey of ups and downs. We happen to know his sister, which is part of our organization, okay? And we talked to her and we asked her. And the question is, how is it today? Or how is it tomorrow? How was it yesterday? Okay? You cannot afford, or you will never get any good answer for anything better. Okay? So even those who look, perfect, the young ones who came back to families, I asked one of the mothers, how is he? And she said, perfect. He has a new girlfriend and he wants to go to study, blah, blah, blah. And I said, what about the nights? And he said, please don't ask about the nights. Okay? So everyone said the same. It's a good day, and the next one is a bad day. And then there's another day. And, it's a long journey. And I totally believe, and I don't know, I guarantee, I don't know, that Yarden is witnessing the same thing and feeling those same feelings. Obviously, his story is one of the worst, but look about Eli Sharabi. He lost his wife and 2 kids, 2 daughters, okay? And there's so many other stories which resemble Yarden's, and this is what happens. So it's a long journey. It'll take time. And one day I hope for them that they will recover. I don't know if they can heal, but they can do better. And this is why Merav and other professionals are doing their best in order to bring them back to life. And it can happen. We saw that after Holocaust. We saw that after so many breakdowns. And I'm sure that we will see it again.
Keith, do we have time to add something?
Yeah, I think so, because Caroline also asked you whether there was anything we could do in this country. So
Yes.
please, yes, tell us.
Yes. So first of all, I want to add about Yarden that many of us thought that he will collapse when he comes out and hears what happened, and then you hear him saying, giving his eulogy during the funeral, and choosing the songs that represent what he feels. And I'm saying that to show again that it is quite amazing, right? The human resilience and the human spirit is really overwhelmingly strong, facing such a terrible, terrible catastrophe, and finding the strength to represent what he wants to say exactly, and to speak, and to try to strive for a meaningful life, because he wants to commemorate his beloved ones that are not here. And one time in a group of released hostages, they said, everybody call us heroes. I don't know why they call us superheroes. And I told them, in a way, you are superheroes, but not in the Hollywoodian meaning, but in captivity. You had to strengthen your psychological and spiritual capabilities to the maximum, more than any other person in the world. So you don't know yourself yet what kind of capacity, what kind of strength you carry from captivity to life. And this is alongside a severe trauma that will go with them along the way. But what we hope is that with trauma, there will be also a life, a meaningful life with trauma. It will not disappear. The symptoms will not disappear, but hopefully they will be integrated into a meaningful life. And for the question of what can you do? So I hinted that we are hoping for a how do you say, we want peaceful relations with the communities around the world, and a lot of help in advocating the situation that we are in, the need for support, which is in any way. Now we need support in leading our country to keep its democratic liberal values. And as Rachel said, your voice out there is helpful, because when our government sees that the world looks for a certain direction, it is helpful. And of course, we want to make sure that this terrible war is ended. And for that, also, we need your support, talking everywhere you can, saying that the vast majority of the Israeli society tells again and again for months and months in polls that we don't want this war. We want this war to end. So just be our voice out there. And Amir, do you have anything to add? I think
you said it all, because there is a big difference in between the government and the people of Israel, as we all try to convey. And we can see it in surveys and polls. And I believe that most people would aspire and want to have peace in this region. And I'm not talking about peace in this fantastic or fantasioner way or fashion. We just want some quiet. We just want to get back to our lives, education, to treat our kids, to enjoy our children. And this is what we're looking for. And I think that you should, if you could help us convey this message to the world, to your friends all over, this will be extremely helpful. And I hope we will succeed one day.
Yeah, I'm
Thank you
sure
very much.
we'll all try and do that, certainly. Two more questions. If you want to get in with a question, please get your hand up quickly, because we're running a little bit closer to time. So I've got two questions left. Nikki Levy, please. If you can unmute and show us who you are, that would be even better. Thank you.
I'm so right, 1 second. Can you see me yet?
No, not yet, but we can hear you. So far away with your question.
Thank you so much. It's been absolutely fascinating to
Gone quiet.
on the situation that we've been through in the UK. Since this happened 2 years ago, we've been campaigning, a lot of us, tirelessly for the hostages, weekly, sometimes several times a week, out on the streets. And about it on Yom Kippur, we had 2 of our members of our Jewish community in Manchester were murdered. This is, for me personally, has had a terrible effect on me. It's come. I feel that the UK is now an extremely hostile place for Jews. I went to a meeting this morning at Hertfordshire County Council where a motion was passed to divest from Israel. It passed by 1 vote. We were up against Palestinians, on the other side, baying for our blood. It was pretty awful. I just would love to get your take on what would your I'm trying to think how to say this. What advice can you offer to us here in England? I don't know how much people know in Israel that our voices have been heard and we are fighting. But I have to say, personally, it's had a real effect on me. And when the hostages were released, I didn't feel that sense of euphoria that I could see going on in Israel. And I don't know why I feel the way that I do. Perhaps it's because there are still deceased hostages that have not been brought home. But also, I guess I'm thinking about the enormous loss of life of our soldiers, of the people who are wounded. For me, I don't feel like going out and dancing about it. I mean, some people do, and I'm just curious to hear what your take on that is.
So it's kind of complex situation, as you just said. You know, it was euphoric for minutes, and then we remember what happened during the last 2 years, and then we looked at the mirror and saw what happened to ourselves, to
Yeah.
our families, to each and every one in the Israeli society. This is so difficult, and you're so correct and right about what you said. So, as both of us said, Merav and I, it's the beginning of a new phase. It's not the end of anything. It's the end of the first phase or the first stage of what happened since October 7th. But there's still a lot of work to be done, and this is how we feel. And you know, I was happy last week. I visited the Shiva yesterday, and feelings are so mixed and so complex. And this is what happens over here in Israel. And this is the situation. I totally understand what you just said because I feel the same.
Yes, I do think that it's very valuable to know that you're on the right side of history. And I think to know that you gave all your efforts to save innocent people. And in the hostages square, the people shout all the time, "Atem lo levad, אנחנו איתכם." You're not alone, we're with you. And I think we are a huge community of good people who strive for peaceful life and for peace in our region and in the world, and for innocent people not to suffer because of radical regimes. And so I want to comfort you and to be comforted by the fact that you and I pray with our feet for good values, and this is a lot.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Right, 2 questions left.
Kit, I think that we need to conclude. I'm sorry. We will be happy to answer via mail or chat words.
Okay. If you're up against time, okay,
yeah.
then I'll start wrapping up. I know you've got one other thing to play to us, so I'm sorry to those 2 that didn't get a chance to answer to ask a question. 2 quick things. Please don't forget, the links are definitely there. Please donate to both of these worthwhile organizations. Give generously. I know that the money will be well used. And I would like to properly thank both of our speakers and the organizations this evening. It has been, you've answered a lot of questions. You probably are stirred up a lot more. It's been a fascinating talk from both of you. So thank you for giving your time. Thank you to Daphne as well. And thank you to the whole organization for coming to address us this evening. And I'm going to give the last word to you, Amir, because I know you want to introduce a short video for us.
But I want to first thank you, Keith. Thank you very much, and your organization for inviting us.
It's my great pleasure and our great pleasure as the National Jewish Assembly. It has been a very worthwhile evening. Thank you.
So thank you, Steve. Thank you, Keith, and thank you, Dali, obviously, and thank you, Daphne and Adva, for organizing that. I would like to conclude by introducing you to Yuval Rafael. She's a 24-year-old Israeli singer who survived the October 7 Nova Festival massacre by hiding under bodies for 8 consequent hours. After her trauma, she began her musical career on a TV talent show and was later elected to represent Israel in the Eurovision Song Contest of 2025 with her song New Day Will Rise. Her song became a symbol of resilience and hope for the global on the global stage. And I would like to present this video to you and conclude that.
Say goodbye, you'll never go away. You are the rainbow in my sky, my colors in the gray, my only wish upon a star, sunshine in the day, the only song that my piano ever plays. And even if you say goodbye, you'll always be around to lift me up and take me high, keep my feet close to the ground. Are you proud of me tonight? Dreams are coming silhouette sous un ciel d'art, un rayon de ma journée. La seule chanson comme un piano peut jouer. New day will rise, life will go on. Everyone cries, don't cry alone. Darkness will fade, all the pain will go by, but we won't stay, even if you say. מים רבים לא יכבו את האהבה ונהרות לא ישטפו. New day will rise. Everyone cries, don't cry alone. Darkness will fade, all the pain will go by, but we will stay, even if you say goodbye. A new day will rise. New day will rise. Thank you, Europe! Am Israel Chai!
Thank you again to our speakers. Thank you everybody for being with us this evening. See you again soon. Good night.
As she said, thank you, Europe. Am Israel Chai.
Am Yisrael Chai.